Welcome everyone to another Directions Mag Geospatial webinar, today sponsored by ROK Technologies. I'm Barbara Duke, Managing Editor here at Directions Mag, joined by my assistant webinar producer, Lynette Qualia. If you have any questions, just drop us a note in the chat. We'll do our best to help you. We appreciate everyone that stops by directionsmag.com and continues to read our articles, daily news, and of course, more webinars. We encourage you to ask questions today. We're going to be a brief 20 minutes. So we're going to collect all of the questions and then follow up with you following the webinar to answer all of those. Do keep an eye on your inbox. We will record everything and hope that you will enjoy those recordings, take advantage of the certificate that's available, and share your opinions on the polls and surveys. So today we are excited to have Jason Harris back with us. He's a regular contributor for these ROK webinars. And today Jason is going to talk to us about security and doing GIS in the cloud. And so Jason, we're excited to see what's new over at ROK Tech and how we can be secure and still do all our cool mapping things. Welcome.
Hey, Barbara, thank you very much. I appreciate that nice introduction. Hopefully everyone can see my screen and I don't talk too loud, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so first, yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining. The title, again, of this presentation is Security and Your GIS Cloud. IT security, and more specifically, it's going to be about, in this case, cloud-based security. And this is a very large and broad subject with, lots of different moving components. If we had like an all-day seminar on this subject, it would really only be scratching the surface. So, seeing that this is only, a pretty quick 20-minute webinar, we're not going to be able to discuss in depth any of the specific platforms or the specific tools, but rather what I would like to do is give you some key points that you really should be thinking about. And because this is going to be brief, I'm sure you will all have tons of follow-up questions. So I really do encourage you to drop me an email after the webinar, and I promise that we will get back to everyone. Sadly, I actually enjoy talking about this type of stuff. So I really do encourage you to get in touch. All right, so let's get started. First, let me just give you the agenda. This is briefly what we're going to cover. First, let me just say that I am not exactly known for my presentations, I guess. I don't have any flashy images. I don't have any crazy animations. But what I can hopefully do is to break down what is a very large and potentially complex topic of security. And I can break that down into some key ideas and some strategies. So for our first topic, and I think this is pretty important, why do you want to take advice from me? Why would you listen to me? All right. Next, and this is really going to be obviously the heart of the webinar, and that's going to be security in the cloud. So what we're going to try to do is use maybe some common analogies to what you guys are probably a little bit more familiar with, and that is traditional on-premise security practices. What I'd like to show you is that these same security practices also apply in the cloud. And then probably, I'd say my favorite, and these are some of the really, the surprise benefits to having a secure cloud environment that you may not have thought about before. And then lastly, I'm going to give you some quick tips, some quick takeaways on, how you can make the case for perhaps moving to or securing your existing cloud-based GIS. So here we go. Why me? Why ROK Technologies? You guys probably don't know me. I could be just some intern that just got hired last week with a degree in marketing. So I mean, why would you listen to me? All right. So I'm not a marketing intern, but I could be, but so let me just give you a little bit of quick rundown. Briefly, ROK Technologies has been partners with Esri since 1997, and then I came on in 1998. So yeah, that's back in the days of Map Objects, IMS, and AWS was just a glimmer in Jeff Bezos' eyes. So suffice to say, we've seen many different iterations of the Esri platform, and we really were very early adopters of cloud technology. So we've been around the block quite a few times, and that's given us something that is pretty rare, pretty valuable, and not many people have. And that's really the long-term experience with both enterprise GIS and cloud. And because of that expertise in both cloud and GIS, we've ended up managing many full stack ArcGIS enterprise environments across several different cloud platforms. That's given us that experience to know how to do things right and how to avoid the pitfalls. Logically, being in GIS and in cloud, we are also advanced technology partners with Amazon Web Services, AWS, which in short kind of means that we know our stuff when it comes to AWS. Also, let's not forget about some of the other big players. We are also partners with Microsoft as well. But honestly, let's be straight. The big one here is that I am, and ROK Technologies as a company, we are giant GIS techie nerds. We are truly passionate about GIS and how you can put cloud technology to work for you. I'm kind of proud of that nerd thing. Anyway, so cloud security. Let's start off by making the statement that the cloud is now fully mature. You can now effectively move, manage, and most importantly, secure your entire GIS enterprise environment in the cloud. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the reasons why you should have your GIS in the cloud during this very short presentation, but you can always go back and check out some of the other webinars that we've done, and we do get a little bit more in depth on those cloud GIS topics. So for now, we're going to zero in specifically on security in the cloud. So here, what we're seeing is like a typical present day GIS cloud deployment, and this is what it might look like. You've got an ArcGIS server, we've got load balancers, we've got portal, we've got databases, and we also have most often virtual desktops that you can use to deliver ArcGIS Pro and other desktop applications. We've probably all seen this before. There's no big surprises here. But what you don't see here is that all-important security layer. These are the processes that are running behind the scenes to keep your environment safe and secure. So I said that the cloud is mature, and it is. But when we typically think of the cloud, we think of it in terms of hardware and its ability to maybe integrate with other services. Well, I'm here to tell you that the cloud is mature in terms of hardware and security, both of which are available to you as a service. And really, service is the key word here. You have the ability to deploy very powerful hardware and robust security tool sets as a service. And you're probably saying to yourself, why do I keep repeating service over and over again? Well, I can tell you, service in this specific case is really just a different way of saying access. How do you use and access your technology stack? So servers and compute power are really just now, they're a commodity, but it is a commodity that is evolving rapidly. It is evolving constantly. So anyone that may have bought, this is a pretty common one, anyone that may have bought that new fancy computer or the new giant flat screen TV knows that the very second that you make that giant purchase, the cheaper, better model will get released the following week. The same is true with compute and servers. It's constantly evolving. There's always something better. But of course, you want the best hardware and you want the best security solutions for your GIS. what if you could have the best of the best and you didn't have to plunk down, I don't know, 25 grand for the servers, or 35 grand for all the different security hardware appliances, or the licensing for some giant security software suite? What if you could access best-in-class security tools and hardware for a small fraction of those prices? To me, that's a pretty easy choice. You can either purchase what is likely almost instantly obsolete servers and security appliances, or you can get the best-in-class hardware and security tools that get better with time. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that scenario that I just mentioned. And I'm gonna start this slide off with making a bold statement. Here we go. Systems in the cloud, I will argue, are more secure than those that are found on premise. Right? That's kind of a big statement, but why do I think that? Why am I asserting that? Well, first, as I mentioned before, the cloud is very cost effective. You only pay for what you use. You get access to best-in-class security tools, things like full stack logging, advanced firewall technology. You get intrusion detection systems, encryption at rest and in transit, and you get these tools all on day one by default. These tools are straightforward in their setup. There's tons of documentation, and they enable you to monitor your environment in the cloud in real time. Consider doing that same thing on premise. Think about maybe some scenarios that you've run into in the past. Think about the complicated, often very, very expensive, time-consuming security suites and security hardware appliances that need to be installed and maintained on premise. Next, the cloud security toolsets are very much standardized and designed to work together as a single cohesive security layer that will improve over time. On the opposite side, consider those that are found on premise. These security solutions are often supplied by different companies that may have developed them and deployed by different vendors. These can often overlap. They can be very difficult to integrate, and probably most seriously, they can be difficult to manage and keep updated. An out-of-date security solution that isn't managed properly spells disaster. And to my last quick point, and really I think this one gets overlooked the most, and that's actual physical access to a server and your network assets. A person's ability to gain physical access to an on-premise server or to the network infrastructure is relatively simple when you compare those same assets that are hosted in the cloud. So think about that for a second. If somebody wants to access your infrastructure on premise, it's as easy as walking into your office and deploying that bad payload, whether that means you're plugging into a network jack that's in the conference room or simply plugging in a USB drive to an unintended laptop. It's really just that easy. So how would I do that same type of an attack with a cloud-based system? As you can imagine, that might be pretty tough, right? So before we wrap this slide, I do want to mention that there are a lot of similarities on architecting and managing a secure system in both the cloud and on-premise. Security principles are really very much the same. You want to allow this person in and you want to keep that person out. That's really it, down to the core. And this is very true of both cloud and on-premise. The key difference here lies on the implementation, the tools, and the services that you have available to you on day one without that huge capital expense. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear the cloud has quite the edge here. Unfortunately, though, the similarities between these two are not necessarily always good things. We've all heard the horror stories of somebody leaving an AWS S3 cloud bucket wide open to the world, or an entire on-premise government system that got infected with ransomware. In both scenarios, a misconfigured system is vulnerable to attack. It doesn't matter if it's on-premise or if it's in the cloud. So let me be very, very clear on this. You do need to know what you are doing in either case. If you aren't sure, get with someone who does, and do not be afraid to call in an expert. I've seen it too many times where people will deploy to the cloud and that's it, it's done, with absolutely zero thought giving to security. That is bad news. We got to be very cognizant of security practices. So we just gave you a real kind of a quick 30,000-foot overview of cloud security. So let's go on the assumption now we're in the cloud and we're secured. So what are some of these surprise benefits, right? You can now access your real-time monitoring. We know that. We get alerted when something could be amiss. We know that. But what are some of the often overlooked benefits, right? And honestly, I gotta say these benefits came to a bit of a surprise to me, a pleasant surprise. So now that your systems are secure and running in the cloud, you actually get to focus what you're good at, and that is GIS. You are free to innovate. You're free to take advantage of all the new services and functionality that a modern GIS will offer you. Next, we can scale when needed. We all probably see that natural disasters, at least they certainly appear to be occurring with greater frequency. Things like hurricanes, floods, wildfires. Now consider that your GIS probably provides mission critical information to your emergency responders, or provide evacuation routes for the public. What's going to happen when your traffic spikes? Your GIS is not going to do anybody any good if it's overwhelmed with traffic and ends up probably taking a nosedive. Well, scaling up to meet those demands in the cloud is as easy as clicking a button. We see these types of events all the time, and cloud-based infrastructure and security can immediately scale to meet those increased demands. And just as quickly as you scaled up, you can scale back down as needed. So think about those items that I just said, that I just talked about for a second. I know my system is monitored. I know that it can scale. I know that it is resilient. That's really what I call security. Maybe not in the most traditional sense, sure, but to me, that really is the meaning of security. All of those things will ultimately let you rest easy. Your system is secure, resilient, and performant. You are secure. And lastly, let's go over this slide and let's try to make the case for secure cloud GIS. So let's go ahead and recap. The tools and infrastructure that you need to deploy a secure GIS environment in the cloud is ready on day one. You have access to enterprise-level security tools for logging, for encryption, for intrusion detection, deploying advanced firewalls. Again, these are all available on day one. Cloud security is both scalable and flexible. Unlike a more traditional on-premise setup, security was not an afterthought when the cloud was born, right? Security concerns were addressed first and foremost. And as such, the tools that are available are really second to none. These different layers of security tools and services can seamlessly integrate with each other to provide a truly hardened cloud environment. Again, this is a big one, no physical access. Think about how easy it could be for someone to walk in, drop a USB drive into a computer, or just plug into the network. Removing that intrusion point from the equation is huge. So all of those things that I just went through are really fantastic, right? But best of all, They are affordable. You do not need expensive new hardware appliances or security software suites to have a secured cloud environment. The tools are just there, ready to be deployed as a service that just get better with time. So in the end, if you have a better, more affordable, easier to deploy security in the cloud, your result will be a more productive, a more performant enterprise GIS system. Now that is really what I call security. And so we really didn't have a whole lot of time to dive into any of the real nitty gritty, the specifics. This is really a monster of a topic. This was really just meant to be an overview of some of the key concepts about security in the cloud and maybe draw some analogies on how that relates to more of a typical on-premise security setup. And I really do realize that we just scratched the surface here. I really would encourage you guys to drop me a note if you have any questions, fill out put it in the chat box, or you can email me directly. Like I said before, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to these types of things, and sadly, I really do enjoy talking about it. So really, I encourage you, feel free to drop me a line and ask me any questions.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Great stuff, and I think a super option for many organizations that have some challenges to meet, especially when it comes to cost. That's awesome. So appreciate everyone taking a peek at the survey on the way out. We will be in touch via email, so keep an eye on that inbox. You'll have an attendance certificate. You'll also get a link to the recording. We appreciate Jason again for coming by and sharing his expertise again, and sharing, that's a personal email address, folks. So do reach out to him with all those great questions. And while I'm speaking, if you want to type some in very quickly, fast, we hope that you will join us again for another webinar. We are having them often this fall. So do stop by for more topics. We hope you'll make it a great day and tell a friend about ROK Tech and Directions Magazine. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.